Hi. Welcome to Luna Listens to Books channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. I woke up paralyzed, trapped in my own body, only to overhear my fiancé, Harold, plotting against me. He was the one who caused the accident. The man I was supposed to marry had nearly killed me, and now he was making sure LD never have children. He was having the doctors secretly remove my uterus, not because he cared, but because it would upset Lily, the woman he truly loved. The woman he had a secret child with for 3 years. I was nothing but a pawn, a convenience. My heart shattered, but I couldn't react. If he knew I was awake, I might not make it out of this alive. With every ounce of strength I had, I waited until he was gone and asked help from my brother. He came. And when he did, I left without looking back. And I waited until Harold begged me on bended knees, 'cause that was my revenge. My body ached everywhere, but where I tried to move, nothing. Panic set in. I blinked, my vision hazy. The last thing I remembered was driving to my wedding. The excitement, the dress waiting for me, the vows I was supposed to say. Then the accident. My chest tightened. How long have I been here? I swallowed, gathering what little strength I had, and reached for the call button. But before I could press it, I heard voices just outside my hospital room. Just follow the plan, a voice said smoothly. Harold. My fiancé. The man I was supposed to marry. I was about to call him when he spoke again. Make sure the hysterectomy is clean, he continued, his tone unnervingly calm. She can't find out. Hysterectomy? My breath caught. Is that for me? The doctor hesitated. She's already paralyzed on one side. Recovery will take time. What do I tell her? It doesn't matter, Harold said, his voice cold. She can't have a child with me. That would hurt Lily. A sharp, twisting pain shot through my chest. Lily. His first love, his ex-girlfriend. The woman who left her years ago, while I remained by his side since we were in high school. I thought he was going to marry me because he had finally realized that, but then, now. My stomach churned. She doesn't want my child with Charlotte competing with hers, Harold continued. Even if she never married me because she chose someone else, she's still the woman I love. I only want to marry Charlotte because I could still use her. And her family's influence. Plus, she's convenient. I am just convenient. How dare he? I didn't know what to say. My vision blurred, the doctor's voice dropped. The child is 3 now. He looks just like you. What if Charlotte finds out that you've been having an affair for 3 years? And what about Lily's husband? I felt like the air had been sucked from the room. 3 years. And he had a child with Lily. And all this time, he had lied to me. How could I not see through it? Why did they have to hurt me, when all this time they were going to be together? She won't, Harold said smoothly, not if you keep your mouth shut. Just do what I said, make it look like the accident damaged her uterus beyond repair. She's stupid. She won't question it. And this is also a revenge for what her brother had done to me. My brother? What was all of this? My head was spinning. I couldn't process everything. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay still. If I made a sound, if I reacted, he would know I was awake. No, this can't be happening to me. I need to move. I need to run, but my whole body just won't allow me. I cursed under my breath, thinking of what I was going to do. But I felt helpless. Another voice joined them. Harold's secretary. Pay off the driver, Harold ordered. Move him somewhere far, make sure he keeps his mouth shut. When Charlotte wakes up, I want her to believe this was just a tragic accident. My body trembled. He planned this. The accident. Everything. For what? Just for Lily? I don't understand. Tears burned in my eyes, but refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. He was going to steal everything from me. My body. My future, my chance at motherhood. No. No. I wouldn't let him. I forced my breathing to slow, my body to go limp, pretend to be asleep. Don't react. Don't let them know you heard. Footsteps. The door creaked open. I kept my eyes shut, my breathing even. Soft steps moved closer. Someone adjusted the floor beside me. A nurse. This was my only chance. With every ounce of strength I had left, I parted my lips and whispered, "Help me." The nurse was startled, her gasp barely audible. I forced my eyes open, vision swimming. My throat was dry and raw, but I pushed through. "Call my brother," I rasped. "My bag, my phone." "My brother." "Don't tell Harold. Please. Help me. They will do some Athena to me," I said, trying hard, giving all my strength. Her brows knit together. "Your brother? Why?" I nodded weakly. "Tell him, stop the surgery. I'll come home. I'll do whatever they want. Just stop the surgery. I had left home years ago. Cut all ties. My family had warned me about Harold. Told me he was wrong for me. That I would regret choosing him. They were right. If I had to beg them to save me, I would. I hope they won't fail me even after I failed them." The nurse's lips parted like she wanted to ask more, but then she nodded. "I'll try." I didn't know if she'd make it in time. Darkness tugged at the edges of my vision. And the last thing I saw was the bright lights of the operating room. I woke up to a dull ache spreading through my body. For a moment, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling. The beeping of the machines, the sterile scent of antiseptic, it all felt too familiar now. I took a slow, deep breath. I survived. But what happened? I moved my hand to my stomach, fingers pressing against the fabric of my hospital gown. Pain. I inhaled sharply, pulling the blanket down. There was a bandage. A fresh incision. My stomach twisted. Did they do it? Did they really take away my uterus? A shaky breath left my lips. What about my brother? Had he abandoned me? Had my desperate whisper to the nurse gone unheard? The door creaked open. I snapped my eyes shut, forcing my face into a calm, blank expression. Footsteps. A familiar scent, Harold. I didn't move as he came closer, his presence looming over me. Then, in the softest, most affectionate tone, he murmured, "Charlotte, my love. You're awake." I forced my eyes open, blinking as if groggy. "Harold." His lips stretched into a smile. "You're okay now. The surgery went well. You just need to rest, and after some therapy, you'll be back on your feet." I swallowed. Nod, Dina. Pretend. Act like you know nothing. Then his expression shifted, adopting a look of deep sorrow. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, sighing as he sat beside me. He reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. I let him. "The accident," he trailed off, his jaw tightening. "It was serious. The damage was extensive." I stayed silent. Waiting. Then, in a voice thick with regret, he said, "Your uterus had to be removed." I gasped, widening my eyes in pretend shock. What? Harold nodded solemnly. "I know this is hard. I know we talked about starting a family," but he exhaled, eyes filled with what could almost be mistaken as genuine grief. "We'll figure it out. Even if we can't have children of our own, I'll never leave you." He cupped my cheek, looking at me as if I was the most fragile thing in the world. "We can adopt," he continued. "I know a good orphanage. We'll raise a child together." It doesn't change my love for you. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. He was a liar. A manipulator. Harold played the role of the perfect fiancé all day. He adjusted my pillows, brought me food, held my hand, and whispered sweet reassurances. I endured it. I smiled. I nodded. I pretended. But inside? I was counting the seconds until he left. And when he finally did, when the door clicked shut behind him, I exhaled shakily. The nurse entered moments later. I didn't waste time. Did you call my brother? I whispered urgently. She nodded, quickly glancing at the door before sliding a phone into my hands. It was already ringing. Then. Charlotte? A familiar voice. A voice I hadn't heard in years. My throat tightened. Brother. He exhaled sharply. He hurt you, didn't he? Tears welled in my eyes. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I didn't believe you. My voice broke. Please. Take me home. A heavy silence. Then his voice, low and laced with anger. It's also my fault. I should have done more. Harold's hated me ever since that deal. He thought I stole it from him, so maybe this is part of his revenge. He paused. But you don't deserve this, Charlotte. I bit my lip, tears slipping down my cheeks. He continued, voice firm. I managed to stop the operation. They didn't remove anything. I sucked in a sharp breath. You'll recover, he said. Just do what Harold wants for now. Pretend. Once you're strong enough, I'll send a private plane to get you. I nodded, gripping the phone. Okay. The call ended. I wiped my tears quickly. No one car know about this, I whispered to the nurse. She nodded. Understood. Your brother already made sure I'm on your side. That evening, Harold returned, eyes narrowing slightly. You seem different. I forced a small smile. I feel a little better. His gaze searched mine, then he chuckled. That's my girl. You always bounce back fast. I tilted my head. I was just thinking. I kind of want pizza. He looked surprised. Pizza? I nodded. But never mind. It's late. Harold smirked. You should have told me earlier. I'll get you one tomorrow. I smiled, playing along. Then, as if to seal the act, he brought food and fed me like a doting husband. And I let him. Because I knew this wouldn't last. Later that night, when Harold thought I was asleep, I heard him talking on the phone. I stayed still. So, you already divorced him, Lily, he said, voice smug. Great. That means we can finally get married. My blood ran cold. Married? To Lily? Oh, about the wedding Charlotte agreed to a stand-in, he continued. But she doesn't know that the stand-in is you. My breath caught. That was it, why he had asked me earlier about continuing the wedding even though I was paralyzed instead of waiting for me to recover. He said it was important for the company, but I know better. This is for Lily. It has always been Lily. Harold laughed quietly. She'll think she's still marrying me, and by the time she realizes, it'll be too late. I'll destroy her. If her brother thought I was done with him, then he was wrong because I am going to use Charlotte. Charlotte, love, don't you think it's time we consider adopting? I looked up from my wheelchair, meeting Harold's expectant gaze. I knew this was coming. For the past few days, he had played the part of the perfect fiancé, caring, attentive, devoted. The type of man any woman would dream of marrying. But I knew the truth. I knew what he was doing behind my back. He was meeting with Lily and preparing their wedding that was supposed to be their wedding. But none of it mattered as she was also preparing to leave. She was recovering and could barely walk. But she didn't tell Harold about her progress. It was not his business anymore. And I simply didn't care of his opinion. So, if he wanted to rush an adoption, then fine. I would play along. I forced a small smile. That sounds like a great idea. His face lit up. Really? That easily? I nodded. You're right. We should move forward. If we can't have children of our own, adoption is the next best thing. Plus, I think a baby would help me with my current situation. I was feeling depressed since I couldn't move, so it would be a great distraction. His shoulders relaxed. Good. There's an orphanage I've donated to for years. We can visit today. Today? That fast? He really planned everything. I didn't react. Just nodded. Sure. The orphanage was warm, bright, cheerful, even. Children ran around, laughing, playing. The staff greeted us politely, their eyes filled with curiosity. Then, from across the room, a small girl with big brown eyes came running. Straight to Harold. Daddy. She threw her arms around him. My stomach dropped. Harold stiffened. Ah, Charlotte, don't think much of it, he said quickly. The kids here call me Daddy since I donate often. I smiled. Pretended to believe him. That's sweet. The girl Sam pulled back, beaming up at him. She looked familiar. Too familiar. Her curls, her soft features, she looked like Lily. Harold cleared his throat. She's adorable, isn't she? I tilted my head. She looks like you. Harold laughed. Then that's even better, isn't it? He didn't deny it. I felt nothing. Just nodded. Maybe we should adopt her, then. Harold looked at me carefully, as if trying to figure out if I was serious. But I knew better, he thought I was stupid enough not to know. But he was also stupid enough not to know that I'd take back everything he had stolen from me. I would make him beg soon. I held my pleasant smile. Perfect, he finally said. Let's do it. Harold stayed behind, filling out paperwork. I pushed my wheelchair toward the hallways, needing a moment away from him. Then I heard voices. I can't believe Mr. Brown is letting his own daughter pretend to be an orphan. A laugh. And worse, he's going to adopt her himself? I feel bad for his fiancé. She has no idea. My fingers clenched against the armrests of my wheelchair. So it was true. Sam was his daughter. I should have felt rage, betrayal. But I only felt a dull ache. Resignation. I already knew. This was just confirmation. I took a breath, prepared to return, then I heard another voice. A familiar one. Lily, and beside her was Sam. Sam was calling her mother. When they felt my presence, Harold immediately spoke. Oh, Sam was calling her mother because she volunteered her a lot. No need to worry, he said. I laughed at myself. No need to worry? He was making it obvious. He was the idiot. Hey, Charlotte. Great to see you again, Lily smiled. I faked a smile. Yeah, you too. I hope you recover soon. Harold told me about the wedding. But don't worry, I can ask as the stand-in. That would be okay, right? I mean, unless of course you want to walk the aisle with your estate. She continued while mocking me. People would think that Harold's wife is useless, and his parents would surely not want that for the media. But no worries, people will just think I was the stand-in, but you're really the real wife. I forced a nod, keeping my expression neutral. Thanks for being kind. Sure. Anyway, I'll wait outside. His eyes flickered with something unreadable. Wait, why? You're not upset? You look like. I tilted my head. Why would I be? Did you lie to me? Did you do something that would upset me? Harold's jaw tensed. Of course not. I smiled. Then there's nothing to be mad about. I pushed my wheelchair toward the exit, not waiting for his reply. I barely made it to the car before I heard the footsteps. Lily. I didn't react as she came up beside me. You're really going to play dumb, huh? She scoffed. I finally looked at her. Excuse me? She crossed her arms. When are you? I tilted my head, watching Lily with amusement. She was furious, hands clenched into fists, eyes blazing with confidence as if she had already won. Are you really going to play dumb? She sneered. I let out a small, confused laugh. What do you mean? Lily glanced around, lowering her voice. I'm only telling you this so you'll finally leave. But don't you dare tell Harold. I raised an eyebrow, pretending to be curious. Go on. She leaned closer. He's just using you, Charlotte. Hurting you. This isn't about love, it's about revenge. My expression didn't change. Lily smirked, thinking she had my attention. Your brother stole what was supposed to be his company. Harold is getting back at him through you. I blinked, feigning shock. That's a lot to take in. Oh, I'm not done, Lily whispered. She smiled, slow and cruel. That little girl? Sam? I waited. She's our daughter. I knew that. But I let my lips part in pretend surprise. So, Lily continued, watching my reaction carefully, I think that's enough reason for you to step aside. The wedding? It's mine. I let silence hang between us for a moment. Then, I laughed. Lily's smirk dropped. What's so funny? I met her eyes, smiling. What if I don't leave? Her nostrils flared. Did you not hear what I just said? Oh, I heard you, I said, voice calm. But tell me, why would I make things easy for you? Lily's expression twisted in frustration. I leaned closer, voice dropping. You want Harold? Fine. Have him. But don't think for a second that I'll let the both of you win. I'll pretend none of this ever happened. I turned to leave. But before I could wheel myself away, Lily grabbed me. She yanked my arm, forcing me down as pain shot through my legs. I gritted my teeth, but I didn't fight back. She smirked, realizing I wasn't resisting. And then she hit herself. Hard. I inhaled sharply. Oh, damn her. She would really go this low? Help. Lily suddenly screamed. The doors burst open. Harold rushed in, Sam clinging to his hand. Sam gasped. Mommy. Lily sobbed, clutching her cheek. She attacked me. Harold's face darkened. His gaze snapped to me. Sam's tiny voice trembled. She hurt Mommy? She did, Lily whimpered, looking at Harold with tearful eyes. I'm sorry. Maybe she was mad because I was going to be a stand-in and she thought I was going to steal you. But that wasn't it. I was just being nice. For your wedding, and also for the sake of company. Lame. They both have lame and pathetic excuses. I was blinded by those before, but I knew better. Harold turned to me, anger brewing. Charlotte, what the hell? Is that it? Why would you hurt her? You can just talk to me. I swallowed, voice steady. She started it. It wasn't my fault. She told me to leave you. What? No. Lily protested. That is not true. I told her to even take care of you like I hadn't done before. Harold scoffed. Why would Lily say that? You hurt her. She was happy for us, you are being dramatic. He cut me off. You're disabled and still picking fights? Sam glared at me, pure hatred in her little face. You're bad. I don't want you near my daddy. I stayed silent. Harold shook his head and helped Lily up. Not me. He carried her in his arms, murmuring soft reassurances. Then, he left. I sat there, on the ground, alone. A moment later, a staff member rushed in to help me. I let them. But inside? That was the last straw. I was truly done with them. I only want revenge now. Later that night, Harold walked into my hospital room, sighing. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. He sat on the edge of my bed, running a hand through his hair. I had to help Lily first. You understand, don't you? I nodded. Pretended. She's going to be the stand-in at our wedding tomorrow, he continued. I need her to be okay for it. I barely reacted. Right. Harold exhaled in relief. You're always so understanding. I smiled weakly. He reached for my hand. Just wait for me, okay? I tilted my head. It might be Lily standing there tomorrow, he explained, but it's our wedding. Our certificate. Once you get better, we'll have another wedding just for us. I nodded. I understand. His shoulders relaxed. Good, he murmured, brushing his lips against my forehead. I knew you would. The day of the wedding, Harold left with Lily, heading to the venue while I was picked up by the limousine that my brother had prepared. I was finally coming home. At the wedding venue, Harold stood beside Lily, radiating victory. This was his moment. His perfect wedding. Then a staff member rushed toward him. Pale-faced. Sir, they said breathlessly. There's a bad news. Harold frowned. What news? The staff hesitated. Miss Charlotte boarded a plane this morning and it crashed to the sea. The estate was quiet, wrapped in an eerie stillness that I had almost forgotten existed. For the first time in years, I had no one hovering over me. No Harold dictating my every move, no cold hands manipulating my life like a game of chess. I was free. I should have done this since. But I was also trapped. The world thought I was dead. I couldn't step outside without risking someone recognizing me. For now, my brother insisted I stay inside, hidden from the world. I didn't argue. Not yet. I wasn't sure what my next move would be. For now, I just wanted peace. I was so drained of what happened to me because of Harold and Lily. May they rot in hell. I sat by the window, watching the wind rustle the leaves of the vast gardens outside, sipping on tea. The bruises on my body were healing. My strength was returning. But my mind, it was still catching up. A knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. My brother walked in, holding his phone. His expression was unreadable. You should see this, he said, handing me the device. I took it and pressed play. The footage was grainy, taken from a shaky phone camera inside a dimly lit bar. Then I saw him. Harold. A man who was always composed, always in control, now sat slumped over a bar, eyes glazed and empty, a drink clutched tightly in his hand. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loosened. Ruined. The video cut to another scene: Harold getting into a fight. A wild swing, a broken glass. Then another: Harold sitting on the curb outside, hands tangled in his hair, whispering something over and over. The audio was faint, but I heard it. My name. He was crying my name. I snorted, handing the phone back. Seriously, he was crying and telling my name? Oh, God. It was too late. Looks like he's finally breaking, I murmured, not bothering to hide my amusement. You really don't care? My brother asked, studying me closely. I met his gaze. No. Harold could drink himself into oblivion. He could destroy everything he had built, burn his empire to the ground. It was no longer my concern. For the first time in years, I was the one watching him suffer. And I enjoyed every second of it. I thought the conversation was over, but my brother returned later with a doctor. You need to be checked, he insisted. I sighed. I'm fine. Humor me, he said, crossing his arms. I rolled my eyes but didn't argue. The doctor examined me, making notes, checking my reflexes. It was a slow process, but one I endured. My body was recovering, but my mind? That was harder to measure. Days passed. The doctor helped me not just physically, but mentally. I had spent so long being controlled, living under Harold's shadow. Now, I had to learn who I was without him. I know I could do it. Slowly, I would erase his memories and existence in my life. I still stayed in the estate. I heard news that Harold was still telling the police and some agencies to find me, but they wouldn't be able to. My brother had done a great job in making sure I would entirely vanish. Let him regret every single thing he had done to me. And then I made a decision. I want to leave, I told my brother one morning. He frowned. Leave? Where? Paris. His lips pressed into a thin line. Why Paris? I like the place, I told my brother. I had always wanted to go. I had told Harold countless times about my dream of walking down the streets of Montmartre, of seeing the Eiffel Tower at night, of tasting fresh pastries from a quiet cafe. But every time, his answer was the same. Not now, Charlotte. I'm busy. Except he wasn't too busy to take Lily there. I had seen the photos Harold and Lily in Paris. That used to bother me. But not anymore. This time, I was going for me. You sure? My brother asked. Do you want me to go with you? There's no need, I replied. He sighed. Fine. But be careful and let me know if there's a problem. I nodded. I packed light. A few essentials, my passport, a new phone. With my supposed death, I couldn't risk anyone recognizing me. I wore a disguise, dark sunglasses, a new haircut, neutral clothes. I boarded a business class flight, settling into my seat, my heart pounding. For years, I had been trapped. Now, I was on a plane. Flying across the world. Leaving behind everything that had ever hurt me. Freedom tasted different at 30,000 feet. The moment I stepped onto the streets of Paris, I breathed. The air was crisp, the scent of fresh bread and coffee filling my senses. People bustled around me, laughing, living. I was one of them. No one knew me here. No one whispered my name in hushed voices. For the first time, I existed on my own terms. I spent the day wandering, taking photos, indulging in every little thing I had once been denied. At some point, I found myself laughing, the sound so foreign to my own ears. I turned a corner, still giggling at something ridiculous, and crashed into someone. Strong arms steadied me. Sorry, I started, but then I looked up. And froze. The man in front of me blinked, his face twisting in shock. Then, barely above a whisper, he said, "You're alive, Charlotte?" I opened my mouth to lie. To tell him I wasn't Charlotte. That I was someone else, just a stranger who happened to resemble the woman the world believed was dead. But I didn't. Because it was him. Riley Sandages. A name that carried the weight of my childhood, the face of someone I once trusted completely. He had left years ago, disappearing from my life before I ever had the chance to tell him how much he meant to me. How much I had wanted him to stay. And now, here he was, standing in front of me, looking at me as if he had just seen a ghost. His eyes raked over me, searching, disbelieving. "Oh, God, you're alive." His voice wavered, breathless. "I almost regret not reaching out to you, and then I learned that you died." I tilted my head, heartbeat steady. "You regret not reaching out?" Riley exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah." A single word. Yet, it carried so much more. He hesitated before continuing. "I wanted to. But by the time I thought of reaching out, you were already with Harold." The sound of his name sent a dull ache through me. But I didn't let it show. "And?" I prompted. Riley clenched his jaw, eyes dark. And Harold and we weren't exactly on good terms. I knew if I came back, I'd be stepping into something I wasn't sure I could win. I let out a humorless laugh. So you just left me? His gaze hardened. I thought you were happy. Silence hung between us. I was happy before I learned the truth. I told Harold truly loved me, but it was just a lie. I hadn't seen it through. I should have, but it was too late. I thought that being with Harold would make me happy, but then I couldn't think of what if I waited for Riley and didn't fall for Harold? What if it was Riley, what would happen? Then, finally, I told him the truth. I told him everything. Harold's manipulation. The baby with Lily. How I had spent years living under his control until I had no choice but to fake my own death to escape. By the time I finished, Riley's hands were clenched into fists. That bastard, he muttered. I should have stopped this. I smiled faintly. You couldn't have. His eyes locked onto mine. But I would have tried. And something inside me shifted. I had spent so long carrying my pain alone, believing no one would ever understand. But in this moment, with Riley standing there, looking at me like he would tear Harold apart if he could, I didn't feel alone. For the first time in a long time, I felt light. And when he suggested we explore the city together, I didn't hesitate. The city was alive. Music floated through the air, blending with the laughter of strangers. Couples strolled hand in hand along the Seine, their whispers carried by the breeze. Riley and I walked side by side, slipping seamlessly into old conversations. It was easy. Comfortable. And then, somewhere between the cobblestone streets and the glow of the Eiffel Tower, something changed. A glance held too long. A touch that lingered a second longer than necessary. The way his fingers brushed against mine but didn't pull away. I could feel the shift, the weight of something unspoken between us. By the time we reached the hotel, my pulse was racing. You're staying here too? I asked, surprised. Riley smirked. Seems like fate has its own plans. I rolled my eaves. Or just coincidence. He lifted a brow. So, what now? The air between us was charged. I could pretend I didn't feel it. I could walk away, say goodnight, and ignore the way his presence made my skin burn. Or I could invite him in. The room was dimly lit, the glow from the television flickering across the walls. The movie played, forgotten. Neither of us was watching. We sat close. Too close. The warmth of his body next to mine sent a slow thrill down my spine. I could feel his eyes on me. And when I turned to meet his gaze, the air shifted. Neither of us moved. Neither of us needed to. His fingers grazed my wrist, light, hesitant. Testing. I didn't pull away. His hand slid up, fingertips tracing a slow path to my jaw. I inhaled sharply. Then he kissed me. Soft at first. A question. I answered by pulling him closer. The next kiss wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was fire. A quiet groan rumbled in his throat as his hands found my waist, pulling me onto his lap. His lips moved against mine, urgent, desperate. Like he had been waiting for this moment for years. My fingers tangled in his hair, tugging him closer, deeper. Heat coiled in my stomach, spreading like wildfire. His lips trailed from my mouth to my jaw, then lower, a slow descent. My breath hitched as his hands explored. His hands were everywhere, tracing the curve of my hips, gripping my thighs, sliding beneath the thin fabric of my shirt. A shiver ran through me as his fingertips ghosted over my skin. Riley, my voice was barely a whisper. He pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against mine. His breath was ragged, uneven. His eyes dark, wild. Tell me to stop, he murmured. I didn't. Instead, I reached for him, my fingers trailing down his chest, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breath. His jaw clenched, a sharp inhale cutting through the silence. Then he kissed me again. Harder. Hungrier. His lips left mine, tracing a slow, heated path down my neck. I exhaled sharply as his teeth grazed my pulse point, just enough to make me tremble. My nails dug into his shoulders, pulling him closer, needing more. His hands roamed lower, gripping my thighs, lifting me effortlessly. Before I knew it, my back hit the couch. Riley hovered over me, eyes flickering over my face, waiting for permission. For anything. I gave it by tugging him down, pressing my lips to his without hesitation. His response was immediate. His hands slid beneath my shirt, fingertips exploring, memorizing. Every touch was fire. Every kiss, a silent question, one I answered without hesitation. And when his lips found mine again, slow and deep, I knew there was no stopping this. The scent of fresh coffee and warm pastries filled the room. Soft morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting golden streaks across the bed. I shifted beneath the sheets, stretching lazily. And then I felt it. A warm, solid arm wrapped tightly around my waist. Riley. The memories of last night came rushing back in a hazy blur, his lips on mine, his hands exploring, the way he murmured my name in the dark. Heat flushed up my neck. I started to move away, but the arm around me tightened, pulling me back against his chest. Where do you think you're going? Riley's voice was husky, rough from sleep. I froze. I wasn't ready for this yet, for the awkward morning after conversation. He chuckled, low and deep. Shy now. That's not what I remember from last night. I smacked his arm, flustered. Really? His grin widened, completely unbothered. What? Just stating facts. I turned to glare at him, but the moment I did, I regretted it. Because there he was, bare-chested, tousled hair, looking unfairly attractive. His green eyes flickered with amusement. Like what you see? I huffed, shoving him off and grabbing a pillow to cover my face. Go. Make breakfast. Riley laughed but got up, stretching lazily. He shot me a wink before disappearing into the kitchen. I groaned, throwing the pillow at the door. This man was going to drive me insane. And I was letting him because, for the next few days, we never left both sides. I didn't expect this to happen. All I wanted is to find myself, to heal myself, but I just realized how fun it would be to finally have Riley, someone I knew would never hurt me. Every morning, Riley dragged me out of bed before I could protest. Come on, sleepyhead. We have places to see, he'd say, already dressed, looking way too enthusiastic for someone awake before noon. I grumbled, but I let him. Because exploring Paris with Riley was fun. We strolled through hidden alleyways, where flower-covered balconies loomed above cobblestone streets. We sipped espresso at tiny cafes, watching the world pass by. Riley made me try escargot, laughing at my scrunched-up face. Too slimy, he teased. I shuddered. Never again. He smirked. You're missing out. I rolled my eyes but smiled. Some nights, we sat by the Seine, watching boats drift by, talking about nothing and everything. I told him about my childhood, the books I loved, the places I wanted to visit. He told me about his travels, his business, the things he regretted. I suddenly remembered Harold, how he made things always about him. But with Riley, he listened and I felt he truly cares for me. One night, we danced in the middle of a quiet street, with no music except for the distant hum of the city. It was reckless. It was perfect. And then somewhere along the way, something changed. His touches lingered. His glances lasted a little too long. The air between us grew thick with tension. It was in the way his fingers would brush against mine, hesitant, testing. In the way he leaned in when I spoke, his eyes flickering to my lips. And I let it happen. Because I liked it. Because it felt right. And I would never regret a single thing of this. But then, reality came knocking. One morning, as we sat in a cafe, sipping cappuccinos, Riley leaned back and stretched. "We should head back," he said casually. I blinked. "To the hotel?" He shook his head. "No. Home." My heart skipped a beat. Home. The word felt foreign on my tongue. I hesitated. Riley studied me, his expression soft. "I want to meet your brother." I stilled. "Why?" He smirked. "Because he's important to you. And you're important to me." My chest tightened. "I want to make whatever this is between us work. I want to marry you, and I want to tell your brother that I wasn't Harold. I would never hurt you, and I would always be here for you." I swallowed, forcing a small smile. "Then, let's go." And just like that, Paris ended. The moment we landed, everything felt different. Paris had been a dream. But now? Reality was waiting. I wasn't sure, but I had no plans and no idea how my life would be after I faked my death. I was sure that sooner I had to face the reality. I had to show myself, and I hoped by then, Harold wouldn't care. The estate wasn't far, but I needed coffee before we went. So, Riley pulled the car over at a small cafe, and we stepped inside, blending in with the morning crowd. It felt normal. Too normal. I should have known better. I had just reached for my drink when a small hand grabbed mine. I froze. Then, a tiny voice cut through the noise. "Mom, isn't she the bad lady?" My blood ran cold. I turned slowly. And there she was. Sam. Lily and Harold's daughter. Her wide brown eyes stared up at me, unblinking. And just behind her, Lily. Standing there, her face twisting into pure shock. "Mom, isn't she the bad lady?" My blood ran cold. My breath caught in my throat as I froze. Sam's tiny hand gripped my sleeve, her wide, innocent eyes staring up at me with confusion. And just behind her, Lily. The moment our gazes locked, I saw it. Shock. Disbelief. Then, pure rage. It was too late to run. Lily's voice rang out, sharp and unforgiving. "You were supposed to be dead." The cafe fell silent. People turned. Phones came out. A cold wave of panic crashed over me. Lily stepped closer, voice rising. "What is this? Did you fake your own death?" I parted my lips, but before I could form a single word, she laughed coldly. "What, Charlotte? You cheated and then ran away? Left Harold behind like a coward?" Whispers spread. The customers murmured, leaning in, their eyes glued to the scene. I needed to leave. Now. But my legs wouldn't move. Before I could react, Riley's hand wrapped around my wrist. "Let's go," he muttered under his breath. I barely managed a nod before he yanked me forward. We pushed through the crowd, past Lily's furious protests, past the murmurs of strangers. And then we ran. The city blurred as we rushed through the streets. My breath came out ragged, my chest heaving. Riley's grip on my wrist was tight, grounding me as we turned sharply into a narrow alley. Only when we were hidden in the shadows did we finally stop. I leaned against the cold brick wall, hands on my knees, trying to steady my breathing. My pulse roared in my ears. The weight of what had just happened sank in. Lily saw me. She wasn't supposed to. Now, everything I had built, the careful disappearance, the fake death, the new beginning, was crumbling. I shut my eyes, inhaling deeply. A warm hand cupped my cheek. "Charlotte," Riley said gently. I opened my eyes, meeting his gaze. He searched my face, concern flickering in his deep green eyes. "Breathe." I exhaled shakily, nodding. He nodded back, his thumb brushing my cheek in a soft, reassuring gesture. "We need to go home," he said. "Now." Meanwhile, at Harold's estate. Whiskey burned his throat. Harold slumped against the leather couch, the dim glow of his laptop illuminating his face. His eyes were red, unfocused, staring at the screen as he scrolled mindlessly, looking for her. Every day, he searched. Some part of him refused to believe she was gone. He told himself it was for closure. But deep down, he knew it was a lie. Then something caught his eye. A live video. Harold clicked on it, expecting nothing. But then his world stopped. His grip tightened on the whiskey glass. There she was. Charlotte. Alive. She is alive? Is he dreaming? He couldn't believe it in his eyes. Standing in the background of the cafe, partially obscured by the crowd but unmistakable. And she wasn't alone. A man was with her, holding her hand, pulling her away. Harold's stomach twisted violently. His Charlotte. With someone else. His vision blurred with rage. The glass in his hand shattered. By the time we reached the estate, I felt like my body was shutting down. The moment I stepped inside, my brother was there. His sharp gaze scanned me, immediately noticing something was wrong. What happened? He demanded. I tried to answer, but no words came out. Riley spoke for me. Lily saw her in a cafe. Called her out in front of everyone. My brother's expression darkened. Damn it. He pinched the bridge of his nose, exhaling sharply. They were recording, Riley added. We don't know if the video will spread, but... My brother muttered a curse under his breath. My head spun. The walls blurred. The voices faded. And then everything went black. When I opened my eyes, the room was dim. Soft sheets covered me, the scent of lavender lingering in the air. I turned my head. Riley was there. Sitting beside me, his fingers lightly traced circles on my palm. I swallowed, my throat dry. What? You fainted, he murmured. His voice was soft, gentle. Memories flooded back. The cafe. Lily. Harold. I sat up abruptly. The video. Riley's hand steadied me. We're handling it, he reassured. Don't worry. I took a shaky breath. His fingers brushed against my cheek. I won't let them hurt you. Something inside me cracked. I had spent so long feeling alone. But sitting here, with Riley beside me, I didn't feel alone anymore. Then a voice outside shattered everything. Charlotte. The sound was raw. Furious. My blood turned to ice. Riley's expression darkened instantly. We both knew that voice. It was Harold. And he was here. The rage in his voice sent a chill down my spine. Charlotte. I sat up instantly, my heart hammering against my ribs. My breath hitched as I listened, straining to hear past the frantic pounding in my ears. Outside, Harold was making a scene. His shouts were sharp and raw, slicing through the night like a blade. Heavy footsteps, the rustling of bodies struggling. The desperate commands of security guards trying to subdue him. The tension in the air was suffocating. Then the sound of a gun cocking. A sharp, chilling silence followed, stretching long and unbearable. If she doesn't come out, Harold's voice was unsteady, almost breathless with rage, I swear, I'll start shooting. My blood turned to ice. I felt the weight of his words settle deep in my bones, threatening to pin me in place. I clenched my fists, willing myself to move, to think, but my body was locked in place, trapped between fear and the inevitable. Charlotte. Riley's voice was urgent, his presence a solid barrier between me and the chaos outside. He stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Stay here. I'll handle this. But I shook my head, forcing myself to meet his eyes. No. My voice came out steadier than I expected, though I felt anything but. This needs to end. Riley's jaw tightened. You don't have to do this. I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. Yes, I do. His expression was unreadable for a moment, but I caught the flicker of concern beneath his hardened exterior. Still, I didn't wait for his response. I pushed past him, ignoring the way my heart clenched at the thought of what I was about to walk into. The night air was thick with tension as I stepped outside. The cool breeze barely registered against my heated skin. The scene before me was chaos. Harold stood in the middle of the courtyard, gun raised, his face twisted in anger and desperation. Security guards surrounded him, hands hovering over their weapons, waiting for the slightest excuse to act. The moment Harold saw me, he broke. His entire body tensed, his breath hitched. Then, without warning, he rushed toward me. I barely had time to react before his arms wrapped around me, crushing me against him in a desperate embrace. His grip was unrelenting, his body trembling against mine. "Charlotte," he whispered, his voice raw, as if saying my name could undo everything. As if holding me tight enough could make me his again. "You came back. You." But I didn't hesitate. I shoved him away. Harold stumbled back, shock flashing across his face, his hands reaching out instinctively as if trying to catch something slipping through his fingers. "Why?" His voice wavered, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What's wrong? Why are you acting like this?" I let out a cold, bitter laugh. "You really don't know?" I crossed my arms, tilting my head as I studied him like he was a stranger. "You think I didn't hear you? That night at the hospital? Talking to the doctor, planning to take away my future?" My voice hardened. "Or maybe I didn't hear you telling your men to cover up the accident you caused?" The blood drained from Harold's face. His lips parted, but no words came out. I didn't stop. "And let's not forget Lily," I continued, each word laced with venom. "The woman you married behind my back. The child you hid from me." Harold staggered as if I had physically struck him. His breath came in uneven gasps, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. "Charlotte," his voice cracked, his eyes pleading, but I didn't give him the chance to finish. "I know everything, Harold," I said, my tone unwavering. "Every lie. Every betrayal. Every disgusting thing you did while pretending to love me." Then he dropped to his knees. "Charlotte," he whispered, his voice breaking like shattered glass. "I'm sorry. I regret everything." I stared at him, unmoved. He looked pathetic. Desperate. Drunk on regret. But regret meant nothing now. "It's too late, Harold," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. His head snapped up so fast I thought he might break. "No." His voice was shaky, frantic. "Please, I'll fix it. I'll leave Lily, I swear. It was never about her. It's always been you." He crawled forward slightly, his fingers gripping the hem of my coat like a drowning man clinging to a lifeline. I felt nothing. Not even pity. I stepped back, shaking his hands off me like they were filth. "Go home, Harold," I said coldly. "Move on." But then his hand shot out and clamped around my wrist. His grip was iron tight, his nails digging into my skin. I barely had time to react before he yanked me forward, his eyes wild and desperate. "Charlotte, don't do this," he hissed, his breath fanning against my face. "I won't let you walk away from me." Before I could wrench free, Riley was there. In one swift motion, he grabbed Harold by the collar and shoved him back with a force that sent him sprawling onto the pavement. "Don't touch her," Riley growled, his voice dangerously low. Harold coughed, catching himself on his hands, but when he looked up, his entire demeanor had shifted. The broken, regretful man was gone. His eyes darkened, rage twisting his face into something ugly. "You," he spat, glaring at Riley as he slowly got to his feet. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Riley didn't flinch. "Someone who won't let you hurt her again." Harold's nostrils flared, his hands curling into fists at his sides. His entire body was taut, like a coiled snake ready to strike. Then he lunged. and chaos erupted. The first punch landed hard. Harold stumbled back, his head snapping to the side as blood trickled from his lip. His eyes burned with fury, but he recovered fast, wiping the crimson streak away with the back of his hand. A slow, twisted grin curled at the edges of his mouth. "That all you got?" he spat, rolling his shoulders. Riley didn't respond. He didn't need to. The sharp clench of his jaw, the fire in his eyes, it said enough. Harold lunged. His fist swung wildly, aiming for Riley's jaw. Riley dodged barely. The blow skimmed his cheek, but it didn't slow him down. He countered fast, driving his own fist into Harold's ribs with brutal force. A sharp wheeze escaped Harold's lips as he staggered, but he didn't go down. The fight was relentless. I heard the crack of bone against flesh as Riley struck again. Harold grunted, doubling over, but before Riley could land another hit, Harold tackled him. They crashed against the pavement. "Stop!" I shouted, my voice cutting through the chaos, but neither of them listened. Fists flew. Bodies collided. Harold's men surged forward, ready to jump in. The cords moved to intercept, but before they could, the unmistakable sound of guns being drawn echoed through the night. My stomach lurched. Harold's men outnumbered ours. Their weapons gleamed under the dim streetlights, aimed and ready. The air turned suffocatingly thick. Tension coiled like a snake, waiting to strike. Then a shot rang out. I screamed. The sound tore through my chest, through my soul. My blood ran cold as I turned and saw my brother stagger backward. His face twisted in shock, his mouth parting as if to speak, but no words came out. His hand clutched his side, blood seeping through his fingers, dark and unforgiving. No. Everything blurred. Time slowed. Riley caught him before he hit the ground, his arms wrapping around my brother's collapsing form. The world tilted. Harold's gun was still smoking. His expression crumbled like he hadn't meant to pull the trigger. Like he hadn't meant to take this too far. I didn't care. All I saw was red. I turned to Harold, my voice cutting through the stunned silence like ice. "You just made your last mistake." The air was thick with smoke, the scent of burning metal clinging to the cold morning breeze. Flashing lights from emergency vehicles illuminated the wreckage, their red and blue glow bouncing off the debris scattered across the crash site. Harold stood motionless, staring at the flames that still flickered among the remains of the private jet. His mind refused to process what was happening. This can't be real," he murmured, barely noticing the officer standing beside him. He had spent the entire night waiting for news, pacing the floors of his estate, phone in hand, expecting a call that never came. And now, here he was waiting for someone to tell him that this was all a mistake. That Charlotte wasn't truly gone. The officer's voice cut through the haze. "Sir, I understand this is difficult, but due to the impact of the crash and the fire that followed, we were unable to recover a body." Harold's fingers twitched. His mind latched onto that one phrase, unable to recover a body. "You're saying there's still a chance?" His voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. The officer hesitated, glancing toward the wreckage. "No survivors have been found." The words hit like a punch to the gut. No survivors. Harold exhaled slowly, his hands clenching into tight fists at his sides. "No. This isn't happening." Charlotte wouldn't have left. She had no reason to. She had agreed to wait for him. She was supposed to be at home. Safe. So why had she suddenly boarded a plane? Had she found out the truth? Had she been trying to escape him? His mind raced, searching for answers, but none came. And then, for the first time in years, Harold felt something he hadn't expected. Grief. The realization hit him, threatening to pull him under. He had spent so much time plotting, controlling, making sure Charlotte never left his grasp, yet now she had slipped away completely. I stood at a distance, hidden behind the trees, my heart pounding as I watched the chaos unfold. The flashing lights. The crowd of investigators. The wreckage is still smoldering in the early morning light. Then, my eyes found him. Harold. He stood in the middle of it all, frozen. His hands hung stiffly at his sides, his usual sharp, calculating expression replaced with something foreign grief. I had expected him to feel nothing. To brush off my death like another inconvenience. Yet, there he was, completely undone. I should have felt victorious. I should have been satisfied knowing that I had finally taken something from him. But as I stood there, hidden from sight, all I felt was a dull ache. Because once a long time ago I had loved him. It had been so easy to fall for Harold. The charming smile. The way he made me feel like I was the center of his world. I could still remember our first date, how he had taken me to an extravagant rooftop restaurant, the city lights stretching endlessly behind him. "You're my forever, Charlotte," he had whispered that night, his fingers laced through mine. "Nothing will ever change that." I had believed him. Had fought for him. Had turned my back on my own family to be with him. And now, here we are. I was standing in the shadows, watching him grieve a woman he had tried to destroy. The irony almost made me laugh. But before I could dwell on it further, a pair of arms wrapped around me. "Charlotte." The voice was quiet, almost hesitant, but the moment I felt the warmth of my brother's embrace, I nearly collapsed. His arms tightened around me, pulling me close, as if reassuring himself that I was really there. A choked breath escaped him. "I'm so sorry." Closed my eyes, allowing myself a brief moment of weakness. "Don't be." He pulled back slightly, his gaze searching mine. "Are you really sure about this?" I turned my head, looking back at the scene in front of me. At Harold. At the broken man who had once been the love of my life. "Yes," I whispered. "This is for the best." My brother studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Then," he said, voice firm, "let's get you home." I took a deep breath, glancing one last time at Harold. The man who had tried to control my fate. Who had stolen my choices. Who had made me believe that I would never escape him. But I had. And now, as I turned my back on him, stepping into the shadows where he would never find me again, I finally felt free. The ambulance doors slammed shut with a hollow clang, sealing us inside. Sirens blared, slicing through the thick night air as we sped toward the hospital. The flashing red lights bathed the interior in an eerie glow, flickering across my brother's ashen face. Blood. Too much of it. It seeped between my fingers, staining my hands, my dress, everything. I couldn't stop shaking. I clutched his limp hand, squeezing desperately, as if that alone could tether him to me. "Stay with me," I whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of terror. "Please, just hold on." His breathing was shallow, each rise and fall of his chest weaker than the last. Riley sat beside me, his face carved from stone, but his hands steady, firm, pressed over the wound, trying to slow the bleeding. "He's strong, Charlotte," he murmured, his voice low but resolute. "He'll pull through." I nodded. But my heart pounded against my ribs, hard enough to hurt. Because I knew the truth. No one was invincible. The paramedics worked quickly, shouting numbers and medical terms that barely registered in my mind. One of them pressed an oxygen mask over my brother's face. Another adjusted in 4-line, their gloved hands slick with his blood. The ambulance hit a bump, and a sharp gasp tore from his lips. His fingers twitched in mine, barely there, barely real. Tears blurred my vision. "You're gonna be okay," I promised, even as my throat tightened. "You have to be." Riley's grip on my shoulder was grounding, solid. But nothing could stop the fear curling in my gut like a vice. The hospital loomed closer, the bright emergency room lights glowing in the distance. Meanwhile, at the police station, Harold sat hunched over on the cold metal bench of the holding cell. His head buried in his hands. The dim overhead light buzzed faintly, casting harsh shadows against the concrete walls. The stale air smelled of sweat, regret, and defeat. His mind spun in circles, replaying the chaos of the night over and over again. The gunshot. Charlotte's face twisted in fury. The blood god, the blood. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Everything had spiraled too fast, too violently. 1 second, he was fighting for the love of his life. The next, he was staring down the barrel of his own downfall. The sound of a door creaking open jolted him from his thoughts. He looked up sharply as an officer approached, gesturing toward the visitor's booth. Harold scrambled to his feet, his pulse kicking up. His mind latched onto one last thread of hope. Lily. He was led to the small booth, where a thick sheet of glass separated him from the outside world. The phone on the wall buzzed as the connection was made. He grabbed it instantly, his fingers gripping the receiver like a lifeline. Lily, he breathed as soon as she picked up. You have to help me. A long silence stretched between them. Then a cold, bitter laugh. Help you? Lily's voice was sharp, dripping with mockery. Harold's grip tightened. His mouth was dry, his pulse erratic. Lily, won. You made your choice, she cut him off, her voice venomous. You ran after Charlotte. You begged her to take you back. And now you want my help? He gritted his teeth. I had no choice. Save it, she snapped. You destroyed your own life. Don't expect me to clean up your mess. His chest tightened. Lily, please, do you know what the worst part is? She hissed. I actually loved you. I would have done anything for you. But you never saw me, did you? I was just the woman you settled for. The second choice. The safety net. Harold squeezed his eyes shut. That's not true, he whispered. A bitter chuckle echoed through the phone. Then why did you run straight to her the second she came back? He had no answer. He heard Lily inhale sharply, as if she were trying to compose herself. But when she spoke again, her voice was colder than before. You made your bed, Harold, she said. Now lie in it. Lily. The line went dead. Harold sat frozen, the dial tone ringing in his ears. He slowly lowered the receiver, his hands trembling. For the first time, true, gut-wrenching panic settled in. No Charlotte. No Lily. No escape. His whole world had crumbled and he had no one to blame but himself. Back at the hospital, I paced the sterile hallway, my legs shaking with exhaustion, my mind tangled in knots of worry. The fluorescent lights above buzzed faintly, their cold glow doing nothing to ease the tightness in my chest. Every second dragged like an eternity. I wrapped my arms around myself, staring down the long corridor, willing for anyone to come out with news. Behind me, Riley sat on one of the plastic chairs, his elbows resting on his knees, watching me with quiet concern. Charlotte, he said, his voice gentle but firm. You need to rest. I shook my head. Not until I know he's okay. He sighed but didn't argue. He knew better. But the weight of everything, the fight, the gunshot, the ambulance ride, the past few months of betrayals and heartbreak, was suffocating. And then, without warning, nausea twisted my stomach. A sharp, unbearable wave. I barely had time to spin around and stumble toward the nearest trash bin before I emptied my stomach. Charlotte. Riley was at my side in an instant, his hand on my back as I heaved. I pressed my forehead against the cool wall, my hands trembling as I wiped my mouth. I'm fine, I croaked. You're not, he countered, his voice edged with concern. Come on. I barely had the strength to protest as he guided me to an empty hospital room. A nurse appeared almost immediately, gently helping me onto an examination bed. Riley stood beside me, arms crossed, his brow furrowed. She's exhausted, he told the nurse. The last 24 hours have been hell. The nurse nodded sympathetically before checking my vitals. Stress can cause nausea and dizziness, she said kindly. But let's run a quick test to rule out anything else. I frowned. Test for what? She only smiled. Minutes ticked by as I sat in silence, my pulse hammering against my ribs. Riley didn't speak either, but I could feel the tension rolling off him. Then the nurse returned, holding a clipboard. She looked at me, at both of us, with a knowing glint in her eyes. "Congratulations," she said softly. "You're pregnant." The room tilted. I stared at her, unblinking, her words echoing in my mind. "Pregnant?" Riley stiffened beside me. I felt his gaze shift to my face, but I couldn't bring myself to look at him. A child. A new life. But how could I celebrate when my brother was fighting for his? Tears burned the back of my eyes, my breath hitched as I pressed a hand to my stomach. "Charlotte," Riley murmured, his voice unreadable. I finally turned to him. His expression was guarded, but his eyes, those deep, stormy eyes, held something I couldn't decipher. Hesitation? Fear? Hope? "I can't think about this right now," I whispered. His jaw tightened, but then he exhaled and stepped closer. Gently, he cupped my cheek, forcing me to meet his gaze. "You don't have to handle this alone," he said, his voice steady, grounding. A tear slipped down my cheek. I swallowed hard, my chest aching with too many emotions to name. "I just want him to be okay," I choked out. And as if the universe had heard me, the door swung open. The doctor stepped in, a tired but warm smile on his face. "He's stable." The relief was so overwhelming that my knees buckled. Riley caught me instantly, pulling me into his chest as I sobbed. Tears of exhaustion, tears of gratitude. Tears for the life I had almost lost. And the new one growing inside me. Harold was done. There were no more threats. No more desperate bargains. No more ways out. The courtroom was silent as the judge delivered the final verdict. Guilty. Harold's face was pale, his once proud stance now reduced to a defeated slump. He barely reacted as the officers stepped forward, ready to take him away. But when the reality set in, when the handcuffs locked around his wrists, he broke. "Charlotte." His voice cracked, raw with panic. "Please don't let them do this. You know me. You know I never meant for this to happen." I met his gaze, my expression unreadable. I had once loved this man. I had once given him everything. And in return, he had betrayed me. Lied to me. Stolen things from me that I could never get back. And now, after all the pain, all the destruction, he finally saw it. The regret. The realization. But it was too late. "You made your choice, Harold," I said softly. "Now live with it." His entire body sagged. The fight left his eyes. The officers pulled him away. I didn't watch him go. In the days that followed, everything moved fast. The case was airtight. The evidence was overwhelming. And with my brother standing strong beside me, we made sure Harold stayed behind bars. Lily never spoke a word. She never tried to defend him. Never came forward. She had disappeared. The last I heard, she had fled the country with Sam, vanishing into the shadows before the full weight of the backlash could reach her. It was a cowardly move, but I didn't care. She was out of my life, and that was enough. As for my brother, he survived. The doctors said it was a miracle. That the bullet had missed anything vital, that his recovery had been faster than expected. I stayed by his side through it all. Every hospital visit. Every agonizing step of physical therapy. Every night he couldn't sleep because the pain was unbearable. And when he finally walked again, when he stood beside me, strong and whole, I cried. We had lost so much. But we still had each other. And that was enough. The estate became our sanctuary. Away from the chaos. Away from the memories. For the first time in a long time, there was peace. Mornings were slow, filled with warm coffee and quiet conversations. Afternoons were spent in the gardens, watching the sun set over the hills. Evenings were calm, filled with laughter that I had thought I'd never hear again. And through it all, Riley was there. He never left my side. Not once. One evening, as the sky burned orange and gold, Riley led me to the garden. "Come with me," he murmured. I frowned but followed. There was something in his eyes, something unreadable, something soft. The breeze was warm as we stepped onto the grass, the scent of roses lingering in the air. The estate lights flickered to life, casting a golden glow around us. And then he stopped, turned to face me. And got down on one knee. My heart stopped. "Charlotte," Riley said, his voice steady, his eyes locked onto mine. "We've been through hell and back. We've lost things we can never get back. But through it all, I've known one thing." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. The ring inside was simple. Elegant. Perfect. "I love you," he said. "And I don't want to spend another day without you." Tears burned my eyes. My chest tightened. "Marry me." For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. Then I smiled. "Yes," I whispered. Riley slipped the ring onto my finger, his hands warm, steady. And when he stood, pulling me into his arms, I melted into him. For the first time in a long time, the past didn't haunt me. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I was looking forward. To the future. To our future. The world had never felt so quiet. Not in an empty, lonely way, but in a way that was full. Overflowing. Like a moment stretched in time, untouched by anything outside of it. Riley stood at the end of the aisle. No crowd. No flashing cameras. No noise. Just him. Just me. Just us. My brother sat in the front row, his eyes filled with something I had never seen before, not just happiness, but peace. It had been a long road. Bloody. Twisted. Full of losses and lessons we had never asked to learn. But we had made it. And now, I was walking toward my future. The small chapel smelled of fresh roses. The air was thick with the scent of candle wax and old wood. The only sounds were the quiet hum of the organ and the soft rustling of my dress as I moved forward, step by step. Riley's eyes never left me. When I reached him, his hands found mine, warm and steady. The officiant cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" I nodded. The vows were simple. Honest. No grand speeches. No empty words. Just truth. "Charlotte," Riley said, his voice unwavering. "Loving you has never been a choice. It's who I am. Who I want to be. Today, I promise you forever." Tears burned my eyes. My throat tightened. I exhaled shakily. "Riley, you've been my anchor. My safe place. My reason to keep going. And today, I choose you. Always." A slow smile spread across his face. "By the power vested in me," the officiant said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Riley didn't hesitate. His hands framed my face, and then his lips were on mine, sealing the moment with something stronger than words. A promise. A beginning. The estate became our home. The walls held laughter now. The kind that echoed. The kind that made old scars feel distant. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. And then everything changed. Pain split through me like fire. I gasped, gripping Riley's hand as another contraction hit. "Breathe, Charlotte," he murmured, his voice calm despite the storm in my body. "You're almost there." Sweat dripped down my forehead. The room spun. My brother stood by the doorway, his face tense, helpless. "One more push," the doctor urged. "You're doing great." I clenched my teeth and gave everything I had left. A cry pierced the air. The world stopped. For a second, I forgot the pain, the exhaustion, the past. And then warmth. A small, wriggling bundle was placed against my chest, and the moment I saw her, the dam broke. She was tiny, her fingers curling instinctively around my own. Her cries softened as I held her close, as if she knew she was safe. "She's beautiful," Riley whispered, pressing a trembling kiss to my forehead. Tears slipped down my cheeks as I stared at our daughter. "Hello, little one," I murmured. She blinked up at me, her eyes dark and curious. My brother moved closer, his usually steady hand slightly shaking. "Can I?" I nodded. He reached out, his fingers brushing against her tiny hand. His lips parted slightly, his expression unreadable. Then, he smiled. A rare, raw smile. And for the first time in a long time, I knew we were exactly where we were meant to be. The days blurred together in the best way. Sleepless nights. Soft lullabies. Late-night whispers with Riley as we held our daughter between us, marveling at the life we had created. We named her Evelyn. Eve. A name that meant new beginnings. Because that's what she was. Our new beginning. As I sat on the porch one evening, holding Eve against my chest, the last rays of sunlight painting the sky in gold and crimson, Riley wrapped his arms around me from behind. "We did it," he murmured, his lips brushing against my temple. I smiled. "Yeah," I whispered. "We did." And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. Because whatever it was, we would face it together. Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.